Good transition here over to your balls. The second game at the Garden on Thursday night. Tennessee anywhere between a 4.5, 5.5 point favorite against Florida Atlantic. You hit on the Owls, yeah. And
you know where I'm going, so
I know where you're going. So total 131.5 after opening 133. So 1.5 movement down towards the under, or at least just in the market in general. So I'll give you the floor here first, Justin. Tennessee and FAU.
Yeah, I mean, look, shot quality is going to sit here, and we're going to project this one to be pretty big. We have 75 to 62, so almost about it comes close to about 12.5, 13 points for our projections. And look, I understand, FAU does a lot, but I'm personally handicapping this one at around 9 points. I really think Tennessee has this massive defensive advantage here. They're a top 11 defense in our ratings. And honestly, FAU coming in with the 60th best offense, I'm not really sure that, they've had the type of test that Tennessee's going to throw at them. I thought Memphis played a decent game, but really there were some questionable things that went on in that game in terms of how they were stopping some of the shooting.
Kendrick Davis getting hurt.
I know, right? I mean, that's such a huge deal right when they were getting some momentum, just spraining that ankle, didn't have the same bounce the rest of the game. And obviously FAU knew it. So it kind of changed the composition of that one. Of course, FDU giving them a run for their money. You're going to sit there and you're going to tell me that if FDU can do it, Tennessee can't. I don't know. People seem to be sleeping on this Tennessee team round after round. They just handled Duke. I feel like they're coming in a perfect spot. FAU does a little bit of everything well, but Tennessee defends everything well. I'm scrolling through the stats here. The only thing that they seem to kind of allow a little bit of a weakness point is mid-range or isolation, but I tend to think it's because they're focusing on the more valuable shots. In terms of catch and shoot threes, they're a top 50 defense. Off the dribble threes, top 75 defense. Transition, top 100. I mean, you can kind of get into it everywhere. They just have guys that are going to impact your shot making, and I just don't know if FAU is going to come correct for this battle. Their offense, like I said, do plenty of stuff well. 11th highest rim and three rate, 45th best shot selection, really nice spacing, but all of that's been done against the Conference USA and some, not so great opposition in this tournament. So I'm just going to expect Tennessee to come in here and really just shut them down defensively. I don't like the over at all. I would definitively lean under. I think my best bet for this would be, I think this is a slow it down game. This is a Tennessee just thrown into the mud, keeping it low scoring. Shot quality does have it at 136, but I think the market's a little bit correct in having it under that at the moment.
Okay. So, good points on Tennessee's defense for sure. Obviously, this is one of, if not the best defensive team in college basketball with or without Zakai Ziegler. We saw that against Duke. Now, the 1 point I'll contend with you on is Tennessee's 3-point defense. All the metrics you brought up per shot quality obviously make a ton of sense. But the 3-point defense overall, allowing a 26.4% clip, it's got to go up at some point.
No,
it's
ridiculously low.
Right. You guys have it per shot quality. It should, even though they do defend,
31.
like you said, right. What is it, 31 you said?
31, 7% expected increase based on the shot selection this year. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Really high.
It's wild. So, again, if Janelle Davis and Martin are hitting threes for FAU, then I think the total might go over here. Now, I'm not saying I'm betting it because, again, it's for a team that I'm not super confident in. And I'll get to why here in a second, just variance-wise. I would rather stay away from this game on the side or the total if you're going to bet it. And that's because, now I know FAU is kind of the antithesis of a Liberty, but this matchup, just from a guard play, this is, FAU has very good guards. Janelle Davis, one of the better mid-major guards in college basketball. Elijah Martin, a very, very athletic guard too. But then you think about the size. And I know Memphis didn't take advantage of it as much as they'd like. Really only in the second half was Memphis able to start to generate those second chance shots. And honestly, FAU got their fair share of second chance shots in the second half. But Tennessee's length to me is going to be the deciding factor here because Tennessee with the 7th highest offensive rebounding percentage across college basketball because of Kamwa and Adu. We saw how good Kamwa was in the second half, on top of the fact that he was spacing the floor too. And Tennessee also will want to slow down the pace. So to your point about the total potentially going under, the Vols with a bottom 85 adjusted tempo per KenPom. So it's going to boil down to, is FAU speeding things up because that's what the Owls want to do, or is Tennessee dominating the glass and therefore slowing down FAU's attack? And that's why I would it's a complete pass for me if I were to bet on this game. And again, to the Liberty point, we see a team like Liberty because they're able to slow down the pace. So it's the opposite of FAU. FAU wants to speed you up and play the opposite style of pace as Tennessee. Liberty wants to slow quick opponents like an SEC team that they might face opposed to Tennessee, because Tennessee is the antithesis of a lot of SEC teams that play up tempo like in Alabama. But then you see Liberty get dominated physically in the second half of games. Yep. And that kind of worries me when I think about the script.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. I think that the physical aspect is just something that FAU probably just doesn't run into. This is SEC level, bang them down low type of basketball with the defense that has really stymied out of conference opponents a lot more. I was just taking a little peek at those regression numbers in conference. Tennessee only expected to be allowing a 4% higher 3-point rate. So and this is where, honestly, I think as I've been with shot quality for a while now, something that's started to really present itself to me, being literally, I would say, fluent in the language of SQ now, is the duality of these metrics, right? So you see a 7% expected increase in defensive, 3-point rate allowed for Tennessee. And you start to sit there and say, well, are we really seeing something that should regress to a norm, or are they just routinely outperforming their defensive expectations? I think we saw this really firmly with Iowa, who was a top 10 rated shot quality team this year, but you wouldn't know it, right? They developed good shots, but they couldn't hit anything. And even though that they continued to develop good shots, they also continued to lose. So their MO kind of just became really good looks, but no results. And I think maybe, and this is why I like this Tennessee team, that maybe we can't necessarily personify what makes that defense so good in terms of, the numbers that influence shot quality. And so you see these very staunch and kind of shocking, regression stats for them to be allowing 6% more on almost every shot type on defense. I think if anything, they're just actually that good. So I'm going to hang my hat on it. I'm going to say, even though there are regression numbers pointing towards them doing worse on defense, this is really just a team that knows how to outperform on defense, even things that maybe shot quality can't perfectly quantify yet. I mean, this isn't, a 40-year-old metric. This is a 3, 4, 5-year-old metric that we're still improving every single day. So and maybe that's some of the value with having someone who sits there and logs thousands of hours during the season using it. But this might really just be a team that expectations aren't exactly the perfect way to sort of measure them. I mean, we see players like that all the time, like Kevin Durant. I know this is a college podcast, but Kevin Durant routinely outperforms his shot quality expectations. He's just that good. So I'm not really trying to say that, Tennessee is the Kevin Durant here. I know we're literally about to probably talk about Texas, but I don't know. I think this defense is legit, and I'm willing to hang my hat on the third best defense remaining in this tournament, maybe even second, because UCLA is probably in that conversation with Clark, who's no longer there.
Yeah. I think I have a decent comp in terms of the points you're making about Tennessee. Now, it's not as... You could say that Texas Tech's 3-point defense on that 2019 runner-up team regressed a little more, and maybe the numbers kind of even themselves out over the course of the season. Texas Tech gave up a 29.8% 3-point clip to the opposition. So that's obviously low, and you can make the case that could be or should have been due for more regression, or was due for regression. Just going back to the title game against Virginia. Virginia shot 45.8% from deep. So that kind of tells you all you need to know about that. Then Texas Tech's defense started to clamp down a little more when Chris Beard adjusted in the second half. And that kind of leads to a point later on that I want to hit on. Remind me, Justin, if I don't remember, with Texas and Xavier. But Tennessee allowed the fifth highest, this season, fifth highest 3-point scoring rate in SEC play. Texas Tech that season, that plays a no-middle defense, so is more susceptible to open threes or just better looks from three to the opposition, allowed the fifth highest 3-point scoring rate in Big 12 play. So I think it's a really good comp, because while those numbers should be due for regression, you also just have really good athletes at that end of the floor. Tennessee's, granted, Zakai Ziegler meant a lot to them at that end of the floor with his ability to jump passing lanes, but Vescovi's a very good on and off ball defender. They have good defenders across the board, good athletes across the board. So
they have the depth too,
Right. No, it's a good point.